In this episode, I interviewed Joe Phillips, who is a self-proclaimed James Bond of the jungle. He talks about why he's not scared of Alan Sugar because he's faced far worse things in the jungle, and we cover which animal made him faint. We cover some of the weirdest things fans have ever sent him or said to him. It's a really interesting and funny one, so I hope you enjoy it. Joe, welcome to Beyond the Boardroom podcast. I'm really happy to have you here because out of all the apprentices, you kind of stand out, ex-apprentices, because never have I ever, or anyone, seen a apprentice candidate who's also a safari guide. It just doesn't fit because aren't all the apprentice people supposed to be mean?
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, most of it. But like a safari guide?
Yeah, it doesn't really add up.
No, it doesn't add up. It doesn't add up.
Yeah, thanks for having me on this show, and hopefully we can dive into that in a bit more detail.
Yes, thanks for coming on.
Pleasure.
We'll start with, if you could describe yourself in 3 words, what would those 3 words be and why?
Oh my gosh. Positive, enthusiastic, and ambitious. I think that would probably be the 3 to...
Enthusiastic and ambitious.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd say so. Yeah, ambitious or driven, one of them. I think one of them has to be in there.
Okay, okay. I said 3. Yeah.
3. So let's go for positive, enthusiastic, and ambitious.
I can see that. I can definitely see that. Okay, let's talk about the safari side first. You clearly love animals. Like, did you always love animals?
So I was lucky enough to grow up in the developing world. So I spent most of my childhood kind of hopping around these fantastic countries like Zimbabwe and Malaysia and Egypt.
Why were you doing that?
It was mainly my dad's job. So my mom's a doctor and she was working out in Uganda at the time. My mom's side grew up in Zambia. Dad works as a venture capitalist, so completely different. I guess you can probably already tell that's where I get my kind of business side from there, and then the kind of nature loving side from my mom.
I grew up in South Africa, and I visited a lot of the countries as well, the nearby countries. So Zimbabwe is one of them. Which city did you live in? Was it Harare?
In Harare. Yeah, in Harare.
Listen, when I was there, never in my life have I seen spiders of that size.
Oh, yeah, you love them though. You've got to love them.
No, you don't love them. I mean, I just looked up in the ceiling one day and it was about that big. It dropped on the ground and it started.
Oh,
boom.
No.
It's like,
the thing is, so spiders, yes. Our house, I don't know what it was, our house in Zim in Harare was like, I don't know if there's like a scorpion nest or something there.
Oh, gosh.
It was infested with scorpions.
You can die from that. There's not a...
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Well, there are 2 types of... So this is like where my passion will go. Here we go.
Okay, there's
Scorpion
2 types
knowledge.
of scorpions.
No, there's Burythidae, Scorpionidae. Scorpionidae is fine, which luckily is what we had. So we've all been stung by them. And it's like a hot bee sting, like really painful, but you won't die.
Yes.
Burythidae, if you get stung by them, sure.
Is it hours, so a couple of hours or days?
No, not really. No, you can die from them. It's not fatal every single time, but... if you're young, like when we were, if we got stung by a scorpion, Burythidae scorpion, when we were 3 years old, it can be a matter of days.
It's just the way they put their tail. I mean, like,
I know.
They're just freaky.
But I loved it. So to answer your question, I know we deviated a bit. To answer your question, my earliest memories are like running around the African bush barefoot, and I was always been curious and around nature.
Close to it.
And I think when you're exposed to such a diversity of biomes, from the African savanna to the Malaysian jungle to the Egyptian desert, it's impossible not to fall in love with nature.
It is impossible. They say that once you've lived in Africa, you've got that magic of Africa within you. That's 100%. There is something in that, isn't there? You'll never. It's like
you'll know
so
it,
special.
Yeah,
it's like,
I encourage anyone to be watching this to go. Yeah, 100%.
Submerge yourself in it. But also as a kiddie, when you're so close, because I mean, kids these days on their phones, whatever, blah blah blah. And they're indoors and stuff. But when you're outside and you get to know like ants and what they do, and they become like your friends, but in a way they do, because you're playing with different kinds of animals and insects, and you're learning about them, and you close them like that bug and this bug and the birds and this and that. You then get really close, and then you feel like you want to protect them, don't you?
That's what I loved about guiding and learning about the bush. Is it just it opens your eyes to, like saying, people think about conservation, they think of pandas. You know what? It's more than that. Like the ants and the bugs and the beetles. That's the exciting thing. That's what I get excited
they're really
about.
Cute, aren't they? There's so much to them, but not just the ones in Africa and in the bush. Because like, we'll get to this, but I also like, because of my love for animals as well, like you in Africa, I've also started to discover the ones that are here. So the reason why I agree with you saying ambition as one of your points to describe yourself is because in our pre-podcast call, you said that you want to follow in David Attenborough's footsteps. I mean, that's a massive thing to say.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to try.
You're going to try. Yeah, well, you want to. That's an ambition. So no one can say you're not an ambitious person. You 100% are very ambitious. And I think that would suit you because you like the whole TV side, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're not shy. And then you love animals, so why not?
Exactly. And I love education as well. I think when you look at conservation, one of the most powerful tools we have is educating people about nature. And David Attenborough just does that so well. Yeah. And so that's what I'd love to do.
Okay, so speaking of education, I mean, seriously, what do you actually study in zoology? Like, just literally, what is it?
So obviously I studied zoology at Exeter and ethology at Oxford, which is like animal behaviour. It's not like you learn this is a cow, this is a giraffe.
This is how a cow behaves.
Exactly. So you start off and it starts off broad like any university degree, and then it goes narrow. So
what do you mean broad? Like these are the types of animal categories and
exactly. Like, yeah, exactly. So like our modules in first year
crustaceans.
Yeah.
These are
100%. 100%. So like we had modules called invertebrate zoology and vertebrate zoology.
Okay.
So like these broad clades where you dive and learn about chordates and you learn about arthropods.
So
and then
they have like a backbone thing on
exactly. Yeah.
My knowledge.
But then you kind of specialize and you can go, first you'll be broad like sustainability, ecology.
Yeah.
And then as you progress, you kind of choose the direction you want to go in. So I loved like physiology, learning about the body and hormones and things like that. And eventually specialized into behavior. Like animal behavior was something I fell in love with.
Yeah, but what do you learn in animal behavior? Like, how does a lion behave when he's, angry with another lion entering territory? Is that what you learn? Well, the lion is angry.
Exactly. Like I said, I've always been curious about nature, and I loved as a guy I could sit and watch like a troop of baboons or elephant for hours and just be like, what are you thinking right now? What is
I know what they're thinking. I'll tell you a story. The baboons, they're like feisty little things.
Oh, yeah.
I was in a really nice resort in South Africa, but it's kind of like one of those really in touch with nature kind of resorts, basic stripped back. And I was outside on the balcony looking at the ocean, very nice vibe, sort of in my own world with my little child who was 1 year old. She was eating a banana, and then I looked and there was a baboon bigger than a man looking at me. And then he started towards me and reached out to take the banana off my child. Yeah. And my instinct, I just literally took her and I shoved her behind the doors and like sliding doors, and sliding in. He's sort of coming towards me, and I'm like, ah.
They're
and
scary.
Then only just his hand, human hands, like honestly, the nails you could see it, like so human.
No way.
Crazy. And he was so strong trying to open the sliding door, and I'm shouting for my husband going, Elliot, help me. And my husband runs, and both of us versus this baboon, and the baboon's sort of looking, and I'm like, oh no, you're not eating my child.
A mother's instinct kicks in.
Yeah, you know what, my strength, I tell you.
Yeah, I bet.
So we're animals too, so like, yeah, come on, baboon.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Bring it on. You're not taking the banana nor the child. But apparently they go inside these homes, they raid the fridges, they know their stuff, man.
Yeah.
So what behaviour is this like?
Yeah, they're scary as well. Their canines are actually bigger than a lion's. The male baboons are scary. I've also been scratched by a baboon. Yeah,
a baboon scratched you.
Yeah, I've been like bitten, scratched, stung by all sorts.
How does a baboon scratch you?
I don't even know. I was super young, but it's actually very embarrassing. Like I've been bitten by things, scratched by things, wild boars, monkeys, scorpions, and then in Egypt, I got. It's actually so embarrassing. I don't know why I'm saying this.
Say it.
So I've had like so many rabies jabs. I'm sorted for life, like just because of all the wild animals I've been scratched by. And then when we were in Egypt, I was in like a pet shop, like the back streets of Cairo, and playing with this little kitten, like this, I could fit it in one hand.
Cute.
And then the kitten bit me on the top of my finger.
Ooh.
And I fainted.
You fainted?
I was so embarrassed. I remember looking at my finger and like watching the blood trickle. And then next thing I remember, I was waking up to like fresh orange juice and stuff.
Oh, wow.
It was so embarrassing.
Did you have antibiotic though after he bit you?
I actually went and got another rabies jab because I think the reason why I fainted is as I was looking at this blood, like my mom was talking to the pet shop owner and the pet shop was like, yeah, I think you should probably get him some rabies jabs because we don't quite know. And I was like, what?
Yeah, you freaked out.
Bang. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you have this sensitive side to blood. But no, because so my dad was a veterinary scientist, but sort of like that's the reason why he got asked to go from Poland to South Africa in 1981, right? So he worked on like vaccines, like Ebola type stuff, so these big fridges and everything. But he used to always say that if you ever got bitten by a cat, like as in blood, that you should get an antibiotic because you can get sepsis from that and literally die because of the bacteria.
Yeah.
They're very unique to having this
100%.
toxic bacteria in there. And
Yeah, like lions, one of the, like if you don't die of blood loss, it'll probably be infection.
Yeah, it will kill you eventually.
All the bacteria.
Yeah. So the cats said they're very nice, but if you get bitten. So yeah, you probably were right to faint actually. Yeah. So I was going to ask, what's the wildest thing that's ever happened?
The wildest experience. You know, when you go on safari, you can either go on drive, like you take the vehicle out, or you can go on foot.
Trek. Yeah.
That's what I specialized in. So
It's brave.
Yeah, but I love it. When you learn to be a guide, you qualify as Fagasa level. I wanted to take that further and get my trails qualification, which is where you do your advanced rifle handling. You learn how to track, how to trail. That's the danger because you're in their environment, you know?
Yes, their house.
Yeah, it's their house, their rules, their neighborhood. So when you're in a vehicle, you feel very safe. When you see a lion walking by. When you're on foot, it's a whole different story. Yeah. So the wild experience, I've been charged by elephant, by lion, by buffalo.
You've been charged by an elephant.
Yeah.
How does that feel being?
As you can imagine, it gets your heart.
How did you run away from?
Oh, you never run.
Yeah, you never run. Okay.
Except, I'll tell you a story. So the goal, and obviously you want to avoid these situations.
Yeah.
You never want to be, the whole purpose in learning how to trail and track is to be able to cope in a situation like that. And it's so much fun. Like I went and camped in the Limpopo for 3 months straight. Every day we would track a new animal. So it would be, today we're finding lion, find the spoor, track it, find the pride, approach the pride. Next day, elephant, blah, blah, blah. And each day, and I remember our trainers, they would want us to push the boundaries intentionally. So each animal would have like their zone of confidence, we call it, like where they're comfortable. They see you, but they're like, okay, he's fine there. If you go a bit closer, he's like, I don't want him to come closer. And then if you step further, that's when it initiates the charge or the run. So
you kind of deserve it though.
Oh yeah, and and like elephant, they're just so obvious with their emotions, and if they're unhappy, they'll tell you. They shake their head or they trumpet.
Yeah.
But so our trainers would intentionally get us to push those boundaries, so we knew how to deal with it. And it would get to the point where based on their behavior, and you're studying this lion intensely, if I take another step here, that thing's going to charge. And then you'd be stood there and the trainer would be like, one more step. Oh. And then you take one more step.
So who are you up against here, a lion or a...
Lion, elephant. Oh. So I was going to tell you a story. So I've been charged by both, but lions are quite easy, to be honest. They're scaredy cats at the end of the day. Elephant are really emotional, so you can tell if it's a mock charge. Like they usually pull up 5-10 meters away from you. But buffalo, they are another story.
Okay.
So probably, if I was to give you my wildest experience, Actually, I'll give you one for lion first. So we were on trail, and this was only like day 2 or something of the training program. And so I was like super naive. I was like, I don't know what to do here. Trainer was leading the walk, and we didn't even get out of camp. We literally went around the corner and bumped into this female lioness. And I think we both just scared each other. But she just mock charged us again and again.
Yeah, well, she's a
and again.
lioness, so yeah, she's not a scaredy cat like her husband, the lion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know it.
You don't mess with the lioness.
No way.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were like, hey, like stop, you know, bang the rifle.
Shouted
and
at
stuff.
her.
Yeah, 100%. That's what you do, like display
yeah.
dominance. Nature's a game of dominance.
Yeah.
But she wasn't having any of it. She was mock charging. And then what did it in the end is my trainer put a bolt in the chamber, and I think that noise scared her off.
Okay, she's smart.
Yeah, because it was like an artificial, you know, like.
Yeah.
And she was like, "What's that?" And then ran.
Clever. Oh wow.
Yeah. But yeah, so the buffalo one. Sorry, let me know if you want to move on because I could just talk forever about.
We'll do buffalo and then we'll move. Yeah.
Got it. But yeah, this was also during training, and the thing about buffalo is they show no emotion. This is why they're
hard to read. Yeah.
They're so hard to read, and they actually cause the most deaths in Africa when you're on safari. But yeah, we were tracking this one buffalo. We were actually tracking the herd, and then the older bulls usually fall behind the herd, and they're the dangerous ones because they're on their own. And anyway, we come across this one, and we basically get too close to it, and it sees we're coming, and all I remember it's doing is like, all they do is like this, like they look at you, and then they're like in a bovine way, like curious, and they take one step,
and then it's fast.
Boom, and then they just come.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing this thing like coming like this, and then
that Joe from The Apprentice, he's gonna get it.
I'm coming from. And the golden rule is don't run.
Yeah.
But with buffalo,
no, run.
And that's what my trainer did. He literally ran, and before I knew it, I was like, "Oh, we're running!" And we ran, and the backup trails guide actually fell, and she dropped her rifle, and it was just hectic. And I remember looking back and seeing this thing coming, came around the corner, went round a tree, and eventually it went off. But yeah, that's probably the wildest story.
Yeah, that's why you're called Jungle Joe.
I guess so.
Do you like that name?
I think so. I don't know where that originated, but I think yeah.
Because I was going to ask, what have you were quoted as saying you face worse than Lord Sugar. I believe you now. Yeah, the buffalo. But isn't a hippo? Hippo's the most dangerous and feisty and unpredictable. I mean, they also in the water, you only see the little ears and like
exactly, yeah,
charge for you.
Yeah,
they're aggressive and they're fast as
exactly,
well. So
yeah,
fast.
yeah. They I think they cause the most deaths just because they're territorial, and if you're by the riverside, you know, the locals will be fishing or something, and then they'll chomp you.
But also on a more serious note, because you said like, obviously in a car you feel safer, but I mean, I've heard stories of people being trampled in cars, squashed and stuff by elephants, getting too close and things like that. And it's I'm never competing. I always like you're in their environment, so it's like that's their world, and you kind of have to be
do you know what?
respectful and just
you have to be respectful.
quiet.
And you don't want to get into those situations, but like you said, like one of the quotes was, "I've faced worse than what was it?
Than Lord Sugar."
Yeah. So the reason behind that is that I feel like these days no one experiences fear, like a real fear, like primitive, raw fear. We don't have it. You know, you might be stressed out if you miss your train, but very rarely these days you have that experience. So for me,
that raw fear, I get
like
it.
business is a game, money is a game. You'll win it, you'll lose it, and the next day you'll be alive.
Lord Sugar in real life, you know.
He's all right.
He's all right.
He's a teddy bear.
He's fine. He's fine. So why did you apply to Apprentice?
I've watched it for years with my family, and I thought,
why not?
Yeah, I thought, why not? Chuck in an application. I think there were 110,000 applicants.
There's loads of them.
Ridiculous.
So many.
So I submitted this video application and then forgot about it. And then I was actually on horseback in the Karika River, like on safari, when they rang me. And they're like, it's the BBC here. We want to chat to you about The Apprentice. I was like, is this it?
Seriously?
Yeah, is this a joke?
Overall, was the experience on The Apprentice as intense as it looks, or how did you find it?
Oh, it more so. I'd say more. It's more intense than you see on TV for sure.
Intense, isn't it?
Holy crumbs! Yeah. So, like for the boardroom, for example, is like a 20-minute segment or something or per episode, whereas in reality you're in there for like 4 hours.
Oh, it's like more sometimes.
Yeah, more. It's a whole day, like thrashing
it's
it out.
It's a day, yeah.
But yeah, you have a boardroom day, don't you?
Yeah.
Especially if you lose, you obviously come back.
Yeah.
And then each day is like, you're working 6 days a week, 18-hour days.
Yeah, you're not eating properly.
Oh, I think that's intentional. Yeah, you're not.
Of course it is.
Yeah. You're fueled on like caffeine, sugar, adrenaline.
Yeah. If you've got a health issue, that's a problem.
That's what I struggled with as well.
Yeah,
Just a lot of sugar.
I couldn't cope without the food and sleep like that. That I can't do that well.
But I think
I've got a very high metabolism. I don't know about
me too. Yeah,
I need food all the time.
100%.
Whole day. You call yourself the James Bond of business. Are you actually the? Really? No offense. But like, no offense.
No, I think that's one of the things they wanted me to.
They wanted you to do. So you don't really believe?
No.
Probably secretly.
No. I'll tell you the story behind that.
Mm-hmm.
So when you apply, you have to submit a video.
Yeah.
And I told you, I decided to apply the day before I flew out to South Africa.
Okay.
So when I landed in South Africa, I thought, why not? I'll apply. And when I was getting the boat into the lodge I was working at, I thought, this is a better time than any. So I gave my phone to my colleague and she said, just film me getting out the boat. It was the first thing that came to my mind. I was like, I'm Joe Phillips. I'm the James Bond of the business world. And
Lord,
then I regret saying that.
No.
Because then they were like,
you got it.
Use it.
You got to. You got to be good on camera. You got to give them what you got to be a character.
I think that's what they
stand
wanted.
out, or it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
How has your life changed since The Apprentice? It's been like a year now.
Yeah.
But a good year. So how has it been? Have you enjoyed it? Do you feel famous? Do you not feel famous?
I absolutely loved it. Like, I feel privileged to have had the opportunity to go on the show. It's helped the business, but not as much as I thought.
Kind of on your own when you get out. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like a big...
Yeah. The exposure's great. Like, so for most of my sales come through my retailers. Like I wholesale to them, but I do have an e-commerce section that equates to like 20% of my revenue. But when you go on You're Fired, the show after The Apprentice, they give you like one sentence where you can plug your business. So what's the business? And I remember I said something, I was like, I run a sustainable lip care company called Surf Balm.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it back with my phone on the side of the thing. And I said that one sentence, and 10 seconds later, my phone, bing, 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 like all these sales coming in. It was ridiculous.
Oh, you're doing that now still? You're doing that?
Yeah.
In terms of the fame and stuff, do you feel famous? Yes, no? Feel a bit?
It definitely drops off. So like when the show comes out, it's mad. And you go from 0 to 100. And people recognize you and take pictures everywhere. And then it slowly drops off, and people go, which is obvious. But it starts off with people saying like, in the street, oh, you're Joe from The Apprentice, and then it goes to you're that guy from The Apprentice.
Yeah, to that, that guy.
And then it goes, and then now it's like
you got to make the effort to stay relevant, but also if you do stay on these platforms, you'll find that actually you're left with at the end of it. Because I was in 2016. We're talking about a while now, but you're left with sort of like a community that they just love what you're doing. They're interested in you, and you're left because once you've been on TV, you're sort of entertainment. That's what you are. You're a source of entertainment. The board, they look at what's she doing, what's Joe doing today, what's he posted. It's just like TV for them. So you're left with quite a dedicated, loyal fan base, and they stay with you. Like if it's, if you put the effort in, you can.
Yeah, definitely.
But obviously, you get some weird.
Oh my God. Can we talk about the weirdos?
Yeah, what's the weirdest weirdo thing, fan type thing that's happened? Come on, say it. I'll tell you mine. You tell me yours.
You go first.
Okay, I'll go first.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
No, I'll say there's what I obviously like indecent things being sent is like I don't like Well,
Yeah.
obviously, okay, but what's this thing with feet?
Yes, my one was about feet as well.
Why?
What's your
What
thing?
is this? No, I think feet is for me the I find that disgusting.
It's
like obviously,
yeah.
and the
it's a thing,
images
isn't
of
it? Like a lot of people.
yeah.
I've had a lot of messages. Even I did a half mile Ironman last weekend and posted a couple pictures of that.
Yeah.
And some of the messages I got off the back of that were, yeah.
About your feet?
Oh yeah. Most of them are feet related.
Yeah. No, that's completely creepy. So do you have like wild mad fans messaging things like that?
Feet fans, yeah, definitely.
So yeah, you love your fitness, don't you? You're very into. So what's like? Do you do like follow any fads? Do you do the cold plunging? Do you do like keto? Do you do what like the obsession with the gut? Like what's your thing? Tell me. Like
I love fitness. I love all sports. A massive rugby player. I love football, cricket, tennis, golf, any sort of sport I love. But I don't follow any fads, actually.
You don't cold plunge or anything like this?
No, I don't. I actually, to be honest with you, it annoys me when I see it on Instagram. I'm just like, oh, fine, it's just another. It's like a phase. It's like people do it to post it on Instagram type thing.
So do you like how many hours of sport do you do a day? Do you dedicate time a day to do sport? Every day, 7 days, 6 days?
Probably 6 days a week.
6 days a week. You properly plan
or
it.
7, 6, 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had it depends on what training program I'm going through, but it'll usually be like I recently did a half Ironman, so the training for that is pretty intense.
So what does that entail? Tell me, half Ironman. So
triathlon, so it's swim, bike, run.
yeah. So how many Ks?
So the half is 2K swim.
It's quite difficult. Yeah.
It's quite so the swim's hard.
2K is difficult. Yeah. In open water.
90K bike.
Yep.
And then a half marathon, so 21K.
And then 21K running. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Are you a good runner?
I wouldn't say I'm a natural runner. No.
Okay. You don't belong to like an athletics club or like.
No. I've more been like a rugby player, so which isn't really built for like long distance running.
No, but like to elevate your running, you should join like some sort of
Yeah.
You can do your intervals and things like
Yeah, and I did that. So like my training would be for triathlon. In the mornings, I'm an early riser anyway, so I get up at like 5:30 something, go do a couple of hours in the gym before work. At lunchtime, I'll go for like a walk. Just
a couple of hours. So what, like 2 hours, an hour?
Yeah, hour and a half, 2 hours in the gym.
So that's in the morning. Yeah. Then lunch you.
Lunch, I get an hour to and I'm so
that's
like
3.5.
that's just
No, that
a
was
walk
just
though.
because you were training for this big event as well.
Yeah,
It's not
and then the evenings would be my my endurance. So I'd go either
run
for
or
bike or run. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that.
I think swimming's quite tiring, but it's such a nice sport, working everything, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so tiring.
But it's exhausting.
Yeah, I remember doing it for the first time. I'm going to do an Ironman, which is like, that's like 6K. And I did one length of this 100-meter pool. And I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah,
This
especially
is
when
so
you're
hard.
starting. Especially when but you probably swam a lot as a kid or not? Did you do?
I used to, and I actually worked as a swim coach in Zim for the school kids there. But that was the coach used to the head coach used to just teach them to swim. These kids would be crying. I don't want to swim.
It's so scary. It's so scary when you're starting out.
Yeah, but he would his tactic would be like
chuck him.
Like
chuck him in.
They would be like grabbing onto the end of the pool, like, and he'd be like, "Let go of the side."
Let go,
And they'd be, I don't want to. And then he would let go, or I'll get Joe to take you to the deep end.
Oh.
And he would get me to take these kids and just drop them in the deep end.
How horrible!
Yeah, but they learned to swim quickly.
They didn't have a choice.
Literally. But yeah,
I didn't have a choice. No, my dad did that to me. I remember I trusted him.
Yeah.
And then he took me into the deep end. And I was like, Dad, oh, it's so nice. And he's just let go. And he's pushing me and I'm going, Dad! And he's like, bye. And he's sort of moving away. And I'm like, Daddy!
and then you just
Daddy. And then swim to Daddy. But yeah, it's scary.
Yeah.
But like in South Africa, I remember growing up in pools. Like that's what you do in the summer. You spend your whole entire day
it's so hot
in a pool, and it's just so nice. It's like just
Yeah, I agree.
Sometimes as an adult now, when I get in the pool and I'm in like on holiday or whatever, and I feel like, oh yeah, childhood. This is like you're a good swimmer because you swum so much in your life. You're like, I'm confident in the water.
Exactly.
Actually.
Yeah.
Don't mind that. But yeah, I mean, so on this thing, remember I mentioned that like in South Africa, obviously I got to know all the animals and and obviously Zimbabwe and all these countries, and you kind of get to know those kind of insects and those kind of birds and blah, blah, blah. And then when I got here, I just like my one thing, I thought when I buy a house, I'm going to make sure it has the biggest garden ever so that I can have like my own little wildlife nature reserve in there. Yeah. So like make a massive, in COVID, I got really frustrated. So I dug a pond single-handedly.
No way.
But like now I've improved it, so we've had time and I've made it massive, like a lake.
Have you got fish in there? Or
Yeah, but I got natural ones. I don't want to do this whole goldfish thing. So I got the ones that are in the Chilterns, because I live in the Chilterns.
Okay,
So I got the ones that are naturally in streams that occur next to everything else. So I want the newts and all of that. So, you get to know these guys as well. And you think, shame, because, like, it's almost like everyone thinks of safari, like that's the place for conservation. But what about the creatures in the UK? You've got all these cute little, and like the great crested newt, the one with a little thing above his, you'll know.
Yeah.
So like those guys, and they threaten. So you've got to look after them. And people fill up their ponds, obviously, because of safety and stuff like that, even though you can get a cover and it's fine, like, a net thing. But you sort of get to know these guys, and then you want to protect them as well, and like the birds and all of that, and the little animals here. So
definitely,
yeah. I mean, where do you live at the moment, and have you got to know the creatures here? What do you think about them? Or it's like, nah, I care about the buffaloes.
No, I care about all creatures, and obviously, big or small, they all play a part in the ecosystem they live in. So I do love it, but I've never, like, to be honest with you, I've never had the same passion as I have for African wildlife.
Yeah.
I think because I just grew up there, and I find it thrilling and I love it. So in terms of like indulging in nature here, it was actually more about the marine life, because I studied in Exeter, but Falmouth, on the coast. So my uni experience was very much like fishing and surfing, and you'd be bobbing out back and this seal would just pop up.
Yeah, that's so cool. They're like dogs, the seals.
They're awesome. And that's actually how my business, Surf Balm, started.
Okay. Was
because I set up this business at university, supplying merchandise and whatnot to societies and stuff. But the lip balm was, we'd go on surfs, and I remember seeing the high tide mark just littered with plastic. Plastic, and I hated it. I just
kills you, doesn't it? It's just the saddest thing.
And loads of plastic chapsticks. Everyone used lip balm, but like sort of
I know
thing.
that. The tube thing.
Yeah. And I remember thinking, like, why does that have to be plastic? So that's how like sustainable lip care started. Yeah.
Just back to the conservation stuff.
Yeah.
I was just thought of something. I think, like the whole David Attenborough thing. And he did, did he do stuff in the UK? I think he did do UK stuff in that as well. Yeah, I think it'll be good for you to learn about the UK wildlife. I think you've got that. I understand the passion for Africa. I definitely do that. But also I think it's so nice for people to learn about what's sort of in front of them and appreciate that and look after it. And,
100,
when you open up that world, it becomes,
that's what I'm like. You don't realize that some people that live in the city, they never experience nature.
No.
But it's actually on their doorstep. They can find it. So actually, I was working with the BBC recently about doing a podcast for kids about nature. And it's like, it's basically nature on your doorstep. So no matter where you are, you can, you can experience and find nature, even if it's just in your back garden.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd love to do.
I think that's really cool, because it's developing it as a kid to get close to it, that then you care about the creatures more. Whereas if you, and I always go back to this horrible story. I used to have an ex-boyfriend once, okay? And when we were in Seville, I felt sorry for a donkey, because the donkey was like very hot, and like they kept putting people on, and the donkey had to walk, and then we're talking about 45-degree heat, and I was just like thinking, that's cruel, like just stop now, it's enough. I mean, I know that they sort of grow, the animals have evolved in that environment, but to have these big tourists, and I felt really sorry. And then I went up to the guys with the donkey, and I was like, listen, I'm going to give you this money. I want the donkey to sit out the next few rides and give it water and put it in the shade. And this ex-boyfriend got really mad at me. He's like, what are you doing, man? He's like, what are you doing? Just let them do their thing. It's an animal. And I was like, you're an animal.
Yeah.
You're an animal. But he never grew up with that close to animals. That's what I'm saying. If they're not like your friends, the animals, and you don't sort of form that care for them, then you'll never care about them. How can you say that?
It's so important. Yeah, and that's why you're right. Like education as kids, if you can expose them to that as kids, I feel like when they're older and you say like, don't litter or don't use plastic stuff, they'll understand why and the reason behind it.
Plastic thing kills me. On our shores. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm always picking up litter.
Yeah.
Like irritate my family when we go for walks. I'm like,
me
I just
too.
can't. In South Africa, like no one's going to pick it up after you.
So terrible.
No, but the other, just one last topic on like, because if you do get to know like the UK wildlife more intimately, and it means because I live in the countryside now, and I've sort of, and I go for these walks through farmers' fields a lot with my dog and stuff, and then and I watch the wildlife, and I see all these little butterflies and moths and everything, and you can see them feeding on the little strips, the little alleyways where you can walk, and then the field is just barren. Because it's been sprayed with insecticides and poison, and it's dead. And sort of you think, and it's like hectares, like basically all the, and then you've just got these little strips.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. And in these little strips, you can hear the little crickets. And you can see the butterflies, and then the little bees will come, and it's like, and the little bird will come and have a little berry or something, because that's alive. So you don't need the insecticides.
It's brilliant.
Like, why not roll that? I mean, I know it's more expensive, but maybe there's ways to work things out,
Yeah. I remember
to see that.
Even learning in like A-level geography or whatever it was. I remember learning how important hedgerows are in the UK.
That's
because like you fly over the UK and you can see the whole countryside is scattered by fields with insecticides and whatnot, and then bordering are the hedgerows.
That's where it is.
And those are the corridors that have your
and also
all your
gardens
wildlife.
and also gardens. So whoever has a garden or even a balcony, like if they look after that and stop spraying it with rubbish that you don't need and just sort of let it be, then those are the little havens. Those are little nature places for these guys. So what's next for you? Mini David Attenborough.
Yeah, I guess. Oh man, my personality's always been split down the middle. Like I love nature conservation, and the other side I love business. In a ideal world, I love to combine both, and by doing something like setting up at my own safari lodge or something like that, so I can contribute to conservation and nature, but also run a business. But for the more immediate future, I'm loving my job at the moment at the GDS group. And then and also my business, I love doing that on the side. In terms of the nature side of things, I might, and I can't talk too much about this, but I've been asked to go on a show that's more nature orientated.
Really? So you can't tell us more about it, but
unfortunately not.
Because I was going to ask you, Love Island.
Love Island,
like
no.
There was something saying.
No, I know they were asking.
But there's another show, maybe.
Yeah, potentially.
Okay, so basically watch the space.
We'll see. We'll see if it happens. But if it does, it'll be fantastic.
Yeah. Well, Joe, it's been great.
It's been an
a lot of
absolute
fun.
pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
Pleasure.